Imagine saving someone's life only to be insulted because of your accent. Imagine working a 12-hour shift only to be told you're just a nurse. Or worse still, a patient refusing your care because of your race, gender, or religion. These are not stories. They are daily realities for many nurses around the world. Today, let's talk about discrimination nurses face at work, from patients, relatives, visitors, colleagues, and sometimes even the system itself. Hello and welcome to Nurse Mamli O, caring for you, one health tip at a time. Nursing is one of the most respected professions in the world. But behind compassion, professionalism, and dedication, many nurses quietly face different forms of discrimination every single day. And the truth is, most people never see it. Today, I will share real life types of discrimination nurses experience in the workplace. Not to create division, but to bring awareness, understanding, and respect for the nursing profession. So watch this video to the end because at the end, I will share professional experiences. My experiences will not be in relation to any specific place I worked in because I have worked in different places in the UK and abroad. This is just for learning purposes and information. And my experience may be different from someone else's experience. So feel free to share your personal experiences if you are a nurse or student nurse or even someone in the medical field who has seen these types of discrimination against others. On gender discrimination, nursing is still widely seen as a female profession. Male nurses often hear comments like, "Why are you a nurse? That's a woman's job." Or patients refusing care saying, "I do not want a male nurse." At the same time, female nurses may experience discrimination in leadership roles. The truth is simple. Nursing skill has nothing to do with gender, and I wish the public knew how professional and hardworking most male nurses are. Actually, in an environment like operating theaters, they are so helpful and very supportive in a way that I wouldn't imagine a department without them. Then we have the religious discrimination. Some nurses may face discrimination because of their faith or religious practices. For example, a nurse wearing a hijab may receive negative comments. But I'm so glad that where I work is an institution that does not tolerate this kind of discrimination. Some nurses may be criticized for praying during breaks, while others may struggle to get understanding from managers when requesting for time for religious observances. Yet healthcare is about observing and respecting patients' beliefs. So healthcare workplaces must also respect the beliefs of healthcare workers. Some countries recruit nurses abroad to cover their shortages and offer high salaries. But you must adhere to their religious beliefs and not yours. A colleague fell for this, but could not cope and ended up resigning from that job they went for abroad. On racial discrimination, this is one of the most painful forms nurses experience. This can come from patients, relatives, visitors, or even colleagues. For example, a patient may say, "I do not want this nurse from this color," or "I want the other color," or "I can't understand your accent, get someone else," and yet they are actually able to respond back and communicate with you. Some nurses have been judged simply because of their skin color or where they come from. Many international nurses work far from home, caring for patients with dedication. Yet sometimes they are treated as less competent simply because they are foreign. It doesn't matter which country they are practicing. This is global. This can be deeply hurtful and demoralizing, especially when the nurse is doing their best to provide safe care. The accent and language discrimination. Many nurses work in countries where English or French is not their first language, or even other languages. Even when they speak clearly, you may still hear comments like, "Your English or French or German is terrible," or "I can't understand foreign nurses." Sometimes patients immediately assume a nurse is less competent because of their accent. But speaking with an accent means one thing: you speak more than one language, and that is a strength, not a weakness. On professionalism and discrimination, the "just a nurse" in quotes problem. Many nurses hear this phrase far too often. In quotes, "you're just a nurse." This statement completely ignores the knowledge, training, and responsibility nurses carry. Nurses monitor patients continuously. They detect deterioration early. They administer life-saving treatments. And they advocate for patients when something is wrong. Yet sometimes society and even other healthcare professionals fail to recognize their expertise. Then there is bullying and jealousy from colleagues. Sadly, discrimination doesn't always come from outside. Sometimes it comes from within the profession itself. A nurse may face bullying, cliques in the workplace, being excluded from teams, or being given the heaviest workload unfairly. Some nurses experience jealousy from colleagues when they perform well, gain recognition, or have more experience. This type of workplace toxicity can lead to burnout, anxiety, or nurses leaving the profession. And that is something healthcare cannot afford, no matter what part of the world you are. Discrimination from patients and relatives is also very common. Relatives are always very stressed and worried about their loved ones. But sometimes that stress turns into verbal abuse towards nurses. Examples include shouting at nurses, blaming nurses for delay, questioning their competence, or even demanding a different nurse based on race or gender. Despite this, nurses must remain professional, calm, and passionate. But that emotional burden can be too heavy. There's also the systemic discrimination. Some discrimination is not direct, but it is built into systems. For example, a slower career progression, visa restrictions, unequal pay opportunities, limited access to leadership roles. Even though they contribute enormously to healthcare systems worldwide. Let me share with you a few incidences that nurses have shared with me, and these are from different countries. A nurse entered a room to give medication, greets the patient and explains the treatment clearly. Patient interrupts her and asks, "Where are you from?" She answers politely, giving her country of birth. Then the patient sighs and says, "I can't understand foreign nurses." The nurse stands there, holding medication that could save the patient's life. Yet suddenly, She is treated as if she knows nothing. But because of her skills, not because of her training, but because of her accent. Another scenario is where a male nurse walks in to check a patient's vital signs. Before he can speak, the patient says, "Where is the real nurse?" The male nurse smiled politely. "I'm your nurse today." But the patient shakes their head saying, "Nursing is for women. Send me a female nurse." Despite years of education and experience, its professionalism is reduced to a stereotype. And on the "just a nurse" comment, during a ward round, a nurse notices a patient deteriorating. She raises concerns, but someone says, "Relax, you're just a nurse." Hours later, the same patient becomes critically ill because nurses are often the first to notice danger. But too often, their expertise is underestimated. Now I'll give you an example or a few examples of my own experience. At a few years back, I was in theater and it was at night. It was me and someone of the same color. A patient came in and said they did not want us to look after her during cesarean section. But there was nobody else. The rest were midwives. So the team that was coordinating the labor ward had to suggest for them to transfer to a different hospital because they didn't have any nurse of a different color of the color they wanted to help have their baby delivered. But then when she realized it was an emergency and they were told to transfer to a hospital of their choice, she decided it's okay, then she accepted. But strangely, her mother was of the same color that she did not want. Then a parent fainting on the corridors. In a children's department, there was a parent fainting. The mother was fainting on the corridors. And when I went to help, the husband was there and the husband told me to leave them alone and do not touch her. But when someone else of a different color came to help, they agreed to the help and she managed to console them and escorted them out of the department. I have also been in a situation where a woman has been brought by a partner to have a baby, but the partner says, "I do not want any males." And this is very common. No males in the theater. But at that particular time, the person assisting the anesthetist is a male, and there is no one else because it's in the night. Again, they were told to choose a hospital of their choice so that they are transferred. But then they accepted because it was an emergency, so they allowed the male nurse to be there. The reality is, many nurses experience discrimination based on race, nationality, accent, gender, religion, age, or simply jealousy. Yet every day they return to work. They care for patients. They comfort families. And above all, save lives. The truth about nurses: when the patient stops breathing, no one asks the nurse's race. When a child has seizure, no one asks the nurse's religion. When a patient is bleeding in theater, no one asks the nurse's accent. And when a patient falls, no one asks the nurse's gender. They only care about one main thing: can you help me? And nurses do every single day. One might wonder at this point, if you have been watching this video, why this matters. It matters because it affects mental health, job satisfaction, job retention, and ultimately patient care. A nurse who feels valued performs better. A nurse who feels respected stays longer on the job, and healthcare becomes stronger. Now, here is my message to nurses watching this video. If you are a nurse, and you have faced discrimination, please remember this. Your work matters, your skill matter, and your compassion matter. And the healthcare system could not function without you, nurses. Never let anyone make you feel less than the professional you are. Healthcare should be a place of respect, teamwork, dignity, and not discrimination. Thank you for watching. If you are a nurse, healthcare worker, or someone who supports nurses, please share your thoughts in the comments section. Have you ever witnessed discrimination in healthcare? Let's start a respectful conversation. And if you enjoy honest discussions about healthcare realities, please like, subscribe, and join the Nurse Family or community, because here we talk about real stories behind healthcare. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.
Illuminate the world with the knowledge we've sown. Let the seeds of wisdom forever be known. From classrooms to libraries, the light shall endure. Education's legacy forever pure.